The Trailblazers and Rose Quarter, in partnership with Moda Health, have created a virtual resource center to connect you with helpful resources in the greater Portland area, online and across Oregon. The site includes resources like basic needs, health and wellness, food, and activities for kids. Visit trailblazers.com/help to search, add resources to share, and support efforts to help members of our community. After all, we are all a part of Rip City. Welcome back to Trailblazers Courtside. Jordan Kent alongside Michael Holton. And being so kind to join us, Trailblazers big man Zach Collins. Zach, how you holding up with this extended time off?
I'm fine. It's tough. You get used to it after a while, though. It's been probably over like a month now, I think, and you becomes the new normal, I guess. So you get used to it. Just try to stay busy and try to not go crazy. Because not playing basketball is one thing, but then to technically not being able to go outside and go to restaurants or whatever is another thing. So it's been all right. It's been all right.
What have you been doing besides any type of physical fitness or working out or whatnot to stay busy during this time? Because a lot of people develop new hobbies or they're learning something new. What are you pursuing right now?
I'm just continuing to perfect my video game skills, watching movies, watching shows, reading books still, reading things that at a pace to where I wouldn't probably have time for before. Also, I'm taking a marketing class right now just because I don't really know anything about it and just thought I'd take one. And it's been pretty fun. But besides that, just trying to continue to stay in shape. And I'm still kind of thinking about the season. So hoping that comes back. And just kind of same old, but just like I said, taking a class, finding new ways to stay in shape, trying to stay in touch with my teammates, just things like that.
You know, Zach, a time like this is unusual. Obviously, you're used to playing this time of year. And with this time on your hands, is a part of what you do reflection? And do you go back? I mean, high school to college, college to pro. Have you looked at your growth and development along that continuum at all?
For sure. Sometimes I'll go back and I'll even look at old interviews and see how I'm speaking and just kind of see that development. I'll also go back and watch film. Like I'll watch like some high school even highlights, and then I'll watch college and I'll watch myself. And I've done that before, not even in quarantine, just to it's kind of cool to see how you develop. Now I'm that guy that says he watches his own highlights, but it's just fun to see that development. So I've definitely done it before, and it's fun to reflect. I mean, there's not much for me to reflect on this season besides rehab, so it's mostly on the times I was playing.
You know, when you reflect on your own highlights and when you look at video, really college to pro, what has been the thing that you focus on the most that you wanted to make sure that either you did coming into the pros or that now when you look back, you go, wow, I need to get better at, or I'm glad I knew this?
I would say going back, it was good that I was at a program that was already kind of run similar to how Portland is ran as an organization. I mean, it's different. It's every day is in the NBA is basketball and nothing else. But just the practices and the way we kind of scheduled our workouts and things like that, minus class, it's kind of similar. So I'm happy that prepared me for, and the playing style as well. In practice, it was a lot of playing. It wasn't a lot of put the ball down and run. And it's similar to that in the NBA because everything we do, conditioning, everything's with a ball in our hands. And we play a lot in practice, and that's the main thing. So I'm glad that I went to a school that I experienced that with before I got to the NBA. So that's a big thing. I think strength was a big factor for my development in this league. And if I could go back, I think I would have put a little bit more emphasis on that when I was in college going into the league. I mean, I always worked hard. I always wanted to be in the weight room, but I think if I could have been a little better with my diet, maybe that 1 year I was at Gonzaga, it would have helped me be more prepared going into my rookie year.
Zach, I wouldn't sweat it. I don't think there's too many college kids that have a pristine diet. So nothing wrong with that. But I know the question a lot of people that are part of Rip City want to know right now. How's the shoulder feeling at this point?
The shoulder feels really good. I definitely think I am on the right track. Right now it's tough because the last part of my development was playing, and we can't play right now. So I'm just trying to simulate that as much as I can right now without going through contact with other players. So But it feels really good. Like I said before, I haven't really had any setbacks in my rehab, from day one. It's all been pretty smooth. It's just a long process, but it feels great. I'm really happy with where I'm at.
You were talking about it a little bit ago, just with Michael, about the strength development that you wish you maybe would have had even more of a head start on prior to coming into the league. Take us through your development, because I remember walking past you prior to media day this season, thinking to myself, that dude just got a whole lot bigger in the offseason and put on a lot more size for sure. Take me through that development, because it is somewhat of a gradual approach, it seems like.
Yeah, everybody's different. I think everybody's body matures differently. I think for me, I've always kind of been on the late blooming side, especially growing up in high school. I wasn't really my body didn't really grow into itself fully until probably my senior year. So that was something that I'm kind of used to, but especially coming in the NBA, there's a lot of guys that already have that grown man strength and who have already grown into their bodies and they've been in the league a while. So they had that advantage. So for me, it was always, and I'm coming in only 1 year out of college. I knew it was going to be a hurdle that I had to get over, but I think this team does a really good job of mixing old ways, but also finding new ways to get better all the time. So it's been big for me. I think I've gradually gotten stronger every year. Like you said, I look bigger coming into this season. So it's just finding that balance of, like, you don't want to get super big and then lose all your quickness, because that's probably more important, especially for what I do on the court, but also not getting big enough to where you can't block somebody out or hold your own on picks or rebounds or whatever. So, but again, this team's done a really good job with me in that area. I feel like, even in the off season, giving me workout plans to do with trainers that I work with in Vegas or whatever, like, they've been good about it. So it's been gradual. And I think getting stronger and not, hurting your joints while doing it while playing on the court is huge. And I've been able to do that.
Zach, outside of the obvious pursuit of a rebound, when you have body-to-body contact and it clearly is physical, what are the other parts of the NBA game where physicality comes into play and where you really need to understand not just strength but balance?
Yeah, I think it's big when it comes into, like, conditioning. Like, you feel it on the court. Like, you can hold your own for a couple plays, but and you could hit somebody and be like, oh, I hit him pretty well, and he moved, so, like, I'm ready. But as the game goes on and you keep trying to do that, you just feel yourself and your stamina just deteriorating. And I think that was a big thing for me, because I like to hit people. I'm not going away from the contact, but it gets to a point where, like, if I hit this dude, I am going to be just gasping for air and I'm going to need a break. So that's the one thing I noticed. I think that's kind of an underrated part of why you need to be strong and have that balance and that core strength to hold your own.
The follow-up to that is, in terms of offensive versatility, which, I think is something that you definitely bring to the table at your position and in the front court, how does physicality come into play on the offensive end, whether it's back to the basket or whether it's to screen and pop? Can you kind of walk us through that a little bit?
I think that also comes down to balance. Like you said earlier, balance and core is huge. You can make all the moves you want without the defense there. Like when you're going through warmups before pregame, I think it's good to go against a body, because you can feel great. Hooks, pump fake, up and under. You can feel like you have the most skills in the league. But until you get that somebody pushing on you the whole time and finishing through contact, it's a different story. So I think core is huge, because getting pushed off a block or going up for a shot and you feel like you're able to go up and finish it, but then you get like a push in the side and now you have to contort, and it's a lot harder when there's defense there. So I think that strength part of it is huge. Again, it's a balance of not losing your quickness and your bounce, but also getting enough strength to where if you do get pushed, you're ready for it.
Looking at the offensive end, obviously your ability to set screens and to make plays out of that two-man game is vital, not only in the Blazers offense, but for so many NBA offenses, having that stretch big. Talk to us about the development of that for you and how you sort of began to learn that more and more year after year, and some of the things that really stood out to you as far as what you have to do to be an effective screen setter and big man in that two-man game.
Yeah, something I definitely needed to get better at when I first got to the league, because it's so much pick and roll, and the spacing is, you have a lot of space to make decisions. And I think you get put into a position, especially with the talented guys that we have on our team, they're going to get trapped. And when you get the ball, you probably have 3 or 4 options that you have to make a choice on within a split second. And that's something that I wasn't great at coming into this league, and I think I've gotten better at it. I still have a long way to go, but it's just slowing down. It's just realizing that you have more time than you think. You know, the decision you make may not be the most perfect decision, but if you make a decision and stick to it and it's the right one, you don't second guess yourself. I've learned that that's the most effective way to handle that. So especially with this team, like I said, everybody's trapping Dame, everybody's trapping CJ. So we, you know, to get that trap away from them, we have to make teams pay for that. So it's huge for our team, and it's something that I've grown in for sure.
You know, obviously your season was cut rather short, just 3 games in when you suffered that shoulder injury. When you look at your game and how you were developing coming off the offseason, what aspect were you most excited to have seen this regular season had you had the opportunity to play? Was there one area in particular where you felt I made some big time improvements and I'm excited to see what I can do on the court during the regular season?
I definitely think playing on the block, playing one-on-one, it improved a lot. And I was really excited to see that. And I was really just more excited to make plays, not necessarily scoring, but just to be more effective in those pick and roll situations like you brought up earlier, guys getting trapped and me catching the ball at the elbow and making a play. I think I got better at that over the summer, and I was excited to show that. Unfortunately, it was only 2.5 games, but I felt more comfortable with that stuff coming into this year.
Well, Zach, we're going to take a real quick break here to pay some of the bills, but we'll have you join us for the second segment here. I know we've got some great questions as far as comparing the college game to the NBA game. Plus, we got to learn more about this new diet that you're on as well, too, especially in a food city. So stick around, one more segment for us. We'll be right back on this edition of Trailblazers Courtside. Welcome back to Trailblazers Courtside. Jordan Kent alongside Michael Holton, Blazers big man Zach Collins joining us. Had a great conversation talking about the strength development that one needs as you enter the NBA. But Zach, you also mentioned you weren't too proud of your diet back in college. You had to make some big changes there. What have been some of the most difficult foods that you've had to give up or sort of cut back on now that you are this polished professional athlete?
Well, I don't think I've cut everything out completely. I just definitely the quantity of like items that I'm eating, I've had to cut down a little bit. Just like bad snacks, like chips, and just always eating like sugary cereals for breakfast, and sometimes not even eating breakfast at all was the route I took in college for some reason. Yeah, a lot of fast food in college. There was. Obviously, they smartly put a lot of fast food around my dorm in college, like Chipotle, Blaze Pizza, Qdoba. I was there all the time, and it was convenient, it was cheap, it was fast. But and after games, we'd be eating pizza and Qdoba. Sometimes we get both. So it was great. It was awesome. And at the time, you know, you hear, oh, you're young, you don't need to worry about your diet, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, all right. I'll take that and I'll just eat what I want. But I've always kind of been healthy conscious. Like even in college, I wanted to eat healthier, but it's kind of difficult to eat. Like you said earlier, a college student, college athlete, it's tough to eat the best things all the time.
You know, Zach, we've talked about the game and on the court and physicality and versatility. You know, one of the things I wanted to ask you about is having been injured and watched a lot of this season, and I know you've traveled with the team, and has anything stood out to you that you've been able to observe by not playing that if you were playing and locked in, you may not have picked up on experientially?
Yeah, there's been a lot of things. I think, again, going back to those pick and roll situations that I know I needed to improve on, and I know that this team needs out of their bigs because of how much pressure those guards get. Seeing things out of there, seeing what, you know, Hassan being the only big out there presents a lot of challenges for him because he has to be the guy who rebounds, blocks, and finishes at the rim and makes his plays out of the pick and roll. So just seeing how he handled that was big for me. I think Melo's been a great guy for me to watch because he's so smart and he sees a lot of things. And just when he comes into the huddle, he'll say something that's going on and you think you see it, but then when the huddle's over and you go out and the play and it happens, you kind of see how we got there with the flow of the game. So that was that's big for me. And I think just anytime you sit there and watch basketball and you're involved in the huddles, and when you're in that moment, you may not necessarily understand what the coaches are talking about when they say, do this, do this, do this. But being able to be on the sideline with them, and I can see what they're seeing their entire time. Like you said, I don't have to be locked in. I can just go out there and watch what guys are doing. It was big for me to kind of see from their point of view what they're talking about.
So listening to you, Zach, it's clear that you're a student of the game. I mean, you've studied your game and your growth and development, and missing games, you've been able to study the game. Are you also a fan of the game? I mean, do you ever watch the game just from a standpoint of, man, I just like watching hoop?
Yeah. Oh, obviously, it's just fun to watch. It's fun to watch guys go out there and make it look easy when you know from playing in the NBA that it's not. And it's just fun to see what different guys can do. But yeah, at the end of the day, when I sit down and watch basketball, I'm a fan first always. But being in the position I'm in, like you can't help but like break it down because you're breaking it down every day in practice.
You mentioned classic games, and one thing that a lot of people are enjoying right now is the Last Dance documentary on ESPN. And I'm not sure if you've had a chance to see it, but if you've had, have you gotten a different perspective on the NBA during that time in Chicago and whatnot? Because you're part of the younger generation of NBA player that didn't necessarily grow up the exact same time the Bulls and the NBA was really making that transition from, a league that had pretty good revenues in the early 90s to really exploding to where it's at now with the star power. Do you get a different perspective on the NBA watching this special?
Yeah, you definitely just see how far it's come. You see how far, like you watch games and you see how many fans are in the arena, or you see how they're doing warm-ups, or you see how it's presented on TV, like just a bunch of little things and you see how much it's grown and how many more people watch it like these days. So one thing that was kind of crazy with this Jordan documentary is when he got hurt his second year, they just let him leave and he went to North Carolina to just hang out. And I was like, don't worry about rehab, just come back when you're ready. Like that was, I didn't even know that was allowed back then. And that was pretty funny for me to watch just because like I'm rehabbing right now and they're like, no, like I'm sure I could have rehabbed for a certain amount of time wherever I wanted. But the fact that he could just go there and they didn't even know he was playing in those like pickup games is pretty wild to me. It just kind of shows it was kind of more laid back then.
A lot of people obviously are watching this, Zach, and they grew up with Michael Jordan as their favorite player. Who was your favorite player growing up as a kid watching the NBA?
LeBron was probably my number one. I had guys that I would kind of try to take parts of their game from, like Dirk and the bigs like Tim Duncan, but he was the guy that I was always rooting for. Like if the Heat or the Cavs were on the screen and they were losing, I'd be really mad and upset, yelling at the TV, yelling at the refs, I would be that fan that was yelling at his teammates to make shots. It was he was the guy. I was just always appreciated the way he played, the team style, his ability to pass the ball, his IQ, and then obviously he's extremely fun to watch just because he can dunk, he can flashy passes, long jump shots, and it's fun. And he's a very inspirational character, I would say, to a lot of people. So growing up, that was big for me.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about, Zach, or at least point out while we're having this kind of generational conversation about the game. So in the NBA today, what fascinates me is warm-ups. Mm-hmm. Because you guys get a time slot and you come out with an assistant coach and you do specific things. In the era in which I played, everybody just came out of the locker room at the same time and just warmed up so the specialization and the player development is very different and unique and tailored in today's game. How do you feel that has benefited you both when you were playing and now that you're rehabbing, to have such specialized resources available?
It's huge. It goes back to everybody being different and everybody needing something else to work on. And I think for veterans, it's big because they can come out and shoot and get their rhythm going. Like I think I saw an interview with Kobe where he was like, depending on what his matchups were that night, or he knew where he was going to get a shot, so that's where he would practice in warm-ups. And that's pretty incredible, that's Kobe. But I think for me, it was very big in my rookie year when I wasn't playing. It's big for those guys who aren't playing, whether that's because they're young or because the coach says it's a DMP, whether you get suspended or something for a game or whatever. I don't know the rules on that, but I'm assuming you can still work out. You just can't play. But it's huge because, especially for me, when I was a rookie and I wasn't playing, I would come in and we would play 3-on-3 or we would play 2-on-2, or we would just really go at it for like 30 or 45 minutes, however long the time slot was. And that was my work for the day. You shoot around, you get your work after shoot around, and then you come to the arena and you get 45 minutes, hopefully maybe to an hour, depending on how early everybody is there. And that's your development. So it was huge for me. It was big at the time. And then you go lift after that. So at the time I was like, damn, this is a lot of work. Like I got to go to shoot around. I got to come here and I got to work out for 45 minutes. Then I got to lift. And then I don't know if I'm playing or not. So then I got to be ready for the game. And it's just a lot, but it molds your mind to be ready for all that type of work. And now for me, it's routine. So it's been big for me for sure.
I think it's so important, Zach, for younger players to hear you unpack that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We hear the term professionalism, be a pro. Mm-hmm. But you just described what being a pro really means. It's a job, and you have to punch a clock. And earlier in this interview, you talked about, having, man strength, or because everybody's trying to take food off the other player's table.
Yeah. You know better than anybody else, I'm sure. So it's huge, man. Yeah. Like when it comes down to it and you have those days when you don't feel like working, you got to remember at the end of the day, while you do love the game and you play it for fun, at this point, it's a job and you're getting paid to be exceptional at your job. So I think if you flip that perspective and say, I have all these resources and all this time to get better and focus on nothing but basketball, it's huge.
Well, Zach, thank you so much for taking some time to join us. We appreciate it. Best of luck with the video game. What are you playing nowadays, by the way? What do you spend a lot of times on the sticks with?
A lot of Call of Duty, 2K as well. I'm a big Star Wars fan, so Jedi Fallen Order has been big too. That's actually been a surprise of a game. I didn't know it would be that good.
All right, well, best of luck with that. Thanks again for joining us, and we can't wait to see you on the court here again someday when we can all get back to business. So take care, stay well, stay healthy, all right?
Right back at you guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks a lot. Stick around. We'll wrap up this edition of Trailblazers Courtside after the break.